Hi, I'm Joe Lynch, director of such cinematic classics as Wrong Turn 2, Knights of Badassdom, Everly, and of course the new film, Mayhem. And when I'm not masturbating to Sasquatch porn, I'm listening to Nightmare Junkhead. Ooh, it feels so good.
And out of your consciousness like a bad dream you can't wake from, this is the Nightmare Junkhead Podcast, a horror podcast that knows the fear of walking in a soiled ball pit. My name is Greg B.
I'm Genius Mickey.
And on today's episode, our tour of the wide world of weird continues as we head to Mexico for another engagement of relationships and tentacles as we talk 2016, The Untamed. And whether or not you have experienced deja vu, you can listen into our show. Simply search for Nightmare Junkhead wherever podcasts are played. Hit subscribe, and when we drop our latest episode, it will download directly to your listening device of choice.
All up in your animal husbandry hole.
There it is as well. And of course, you can find us on social media. We are on Twitter at Nightmare Junk and on Facebook at Nightmare Junkhead. And of course, it is on the Book of Face where we have an events tab which leads to
Shenanigans and Squiddley Shenanigans.
And as this episode is releasing on Friday, January 15th, if you're in the Kansas City area, Screenland Armor, they have your genre needs taken care of indoors
and virtually.
Ah, yes. And on that very Friday...
Ooh, I'm excited for this one.
I am as well, because we're going to be celebrating a film that is itself celebrating 10 years of terror.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking Simon Barrett and Adam Wingard's
You're Next. A dope neo-slasher. And you get to see Ty West take it in the eye.
Oh boy. It's their Italian homage there, potentially. It's definitely an inversion on the home invasion genre.
Yeah, but everybody brings their A game, and Simon Barrett and Adam Wingard made something fucking dope.
It's a nice melding, and of another one that features Barbara Crampton and her little renaissance.
And Too Many Cooks.
And Fessenden, whatever
Larry.
it is. But then that following Friday, a film that I have not watched since we both saw it at Film Club many years ago, Osgood Perkins, The Blackcoat's Daughter.
I'm so excited for The Blackcoat's Daughter. I'm telling you, it's what Hereditary wanted to be. And so Blackcoat's Daughter is dope as shit.
I'm going to quote you here as a genius. I thoroughly enjoyed it when I saw it. It was the kind of good satanic slow burn that I needed. Mm-hmm. It's got Emma Roberts, who I absolutely love.
Modern day Scream Queen.
Yes, indeed. And this is a movie that I have not seen since, so I get to see it both times in the theater. I cannot wait. So come on out for our next Friday Night Fright. Be part of the Friday Night Fright film family. Mm-hmm. But we've got another set of genre films showing. One that I'm going to be watching for the first time, Whiplash.
Oh, yeah? I've never seen that one. I
drum
know of it,
teacher,
with J. Jonah Jameson.
Exactly. Not the Cliff Burton bass solo from Metallica. We've got David Lynch's Wild at Heart.
Do it again!
And if you have not seen Wild at Heart, number one, it's got a fantastic Rage Cage performance.
Tell me about Bobby Peru.
But oh my goodness.
Tell me about Bobby Peru.
Willem Dafoe in that one. You need a shower after you watch that.
He's so fucking skeezy in
he
that
is
one, dude.
Horrible in that. And of course, they also have Godzilla vs. Ghidorah.
Ooh, some old school Masurai. I love those guy in a suit kaiju movies.
I've been filling in my gap thanks to Screenland.
Oh man,
they've been awesome.
I love those. I remember back in the day on PBS they would show them.
Well, there's so much charm to them.
Mm-hmm.
And then they add the human characters, and then the aliens always come into play. Mm-hmm. So weird and wacky.
Yes, it is.
Now, if you aren't ready to go indoors, we understand.
Speaking of aliens coming down to play.
Yeah, so we'll get to that. But then virtually on Saturday, the 16th, we have our very first Shudder shout-out of 2021.
Ooh, we're all going to sing Chalalogs together.
And we are indeed got a double feature of Killer Kids.
Yes.
And, oh goodness,
Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
Yes.
What a double feature it is. We have a Finnish film, one that was streaming, and I saw it the first time on Shudder. It was put out to the wild and came back again. We are talking 2014's Cub, or Whelp.
Whelp.
As it is.
I like Whelp. I like that title, Whelp.
I kind of dug Whelp as well. And then we're going to be following that up with a Exploitation classic that I'm going to be watching for the first time, 1981's The Pit.
Grab your teddy bears and your meat and go hang out with some trottologs.
Well, and then I immediately, when I think The Pit, I go to PCU, sadly. So I don't want to be that guy with the Pit shirt on with the VHS cover.
Throwing meat at people in both movies.
Yes, they do. But both of those films are streaming on Shudder. And of course, if you are not already subscribed to Shudder, they have a number of 7-day free trials that you can try. But if you would like some exclusive content that includes a customized pre-show, introduction, trailer reel, and what promises to be an interesting post-film discussion, you can become a member of the Screenland Film family by heading over to patreon.com/Screenland. And of course, that is just the tip of the tier with Screenland. There's so many more things that they offer, but it's something we enjoy doing, and it's our first time back.
Yes, and we are excited. I think, and we got a couple of good ones lined up.
Oh, the month of January.
It's going to be dope.
It's going to be really, really good. And of course, if we are talking film family and we're talking Patreon.
Hey, pallies.
And if you would like a little plug or become one of our Patreon pallies, we have, it's almost been a year now, putting out exclusive content at Patreon. Head over to patreon.com/nightmarejunkhead.
I'm telling you, man, some of those Patreon episodes we put out, like, they've been, not to toot our own horn, but toot, I've been having a fucking blast with those. The commentaries have been funny as shit.
Well, and just, continuing the theme of the month here with the wide world of weird, we did comment on the Exploitation classic, Wolf Cop.
Boom.
Which you are wearing a
I'm
Atomic
wearing a
Cotton
Wolf
shirt.
Cop shirt. Yeah, there we go.
But
and it's got a hole in it because I fell. I literally fell in my Wolf Cop shirt and I made a hole in it.
You're staying on brand, my friend.
I know. One thing, it's consistency.
Well, and then we also had a chance to talk Verotica on an episode. And if you want to hear, if you want to hear Genius break when he's seen too many boobs in a movie.
Yeah, and when you're dealing with a neck breaker.
It is his specialty. Head on over again. Become a member of our film family at patreon.com/nightmarejunkhead. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, Genius, I know you're still reeling from last week with Possession.
Almost.
But I've really, really enjoyed our little tour that we've done so far.
The wide world of weird has been wonderfully wild.
Well, very nice. You did not twist it up. It's now affecting me. But I've enjoyed the tour, international horror, just the weirdness that we've experienced. And, of course, starting in Australia with Body Melt, which I think has more WTFs.
Yeah, per capita, it's right up there with Hausu.
And I did revisit it because I had to go back to it because it is that brief. It does play a little bit better the next time because then I'm not going
Elton John.
But then we went over to Germany on the bad side of the wall and talked to Zulawski's Possession, which I really need, any of our female listeners out there, I really need a female perspective on that movie because it's stayed with me. Just, again, the performances, but also just I need to know what the female perspective. So any of our female listeners, please let me know, what did you think of Possession? Which leads us to our next country, our next little bit of the wide world of weird.
Heading down south.
Absolutely. We're going to be just delving into Mexican horror, and I think this is good because Genius McGee, I don't know if our listeners out there know.
McGee's not a very common Mexican name, but I'm Mexican, yes.
Absolutely, my friend. You give us the heat, the wish, everything that is good.
Uy, Latino heat.
And looking into when we've been sampling these cuisines as it is, we always want to kind of look into where everything stemmed from. And with Mexican horror, when I was kind of doing my research here, it looked like initially, not officially, but in the 1930s, they put out El Fantasma del Coberto, and that was one of the first Mexican horror films. And then from there on out, it has expanded and evolved as it always does.
With Mexican horror, there's two different camps and two different types in the beginning from my personal experience. You had the either very Mexican Hammer style, where it's very gothic and they're dealing with classic monsters, vampires and werewolves and things like that, and it's very Hammeristic, you know. I mean, same shots and same everything, but just with Latino characters. Mm-hmm. Then you have the other side of the where it's the fantastical and the goofy, and then that's when comes in more of the luchador aspect of it, and that's when you have the vampires versus the good guys. There's always been bad guys and good guys in the world of Mexican wrestling and Mexican cinema. Then not until like the 70s and stuff, then you started getting into the weird exploitation and then the weird like experimental phases, and then that becomes there's almost Mexican giallo. It's not very uncommon to get Mexican and Italian things, whether it be dialogue, whether it be a lot of things mixed up, because it's all based on the romantic languages of Latin. So Mexico and Italy, they have a lot of things in common. And in the 70s, you see a lot of very gialloistic aspects in the horror. One of my favorite ones is this, I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it's called El Demonio del Mano, the demon hand. And it's about this hand that comes alive and starts fucking people up. And it's all centered around Satan, because it's the hand of Satan.
Hail Satan.
Yeah, Hail Satan. So, yeah, there's a lot of interesting Mexican movies when it deals with horror, but they're not widely known because they're very, very niche. They're very niche, especially because when the predominantly other, because Hammer itself is a very niche horror. You go to any horror fan, I mean, in general, and talk about Hammer, they might have one or two, but not a lot is known about Hammer. Same thing with like luchador movies. So when that is your main crux of your genre cinema, you're already at a negative. So like, but the cream does rise to the top, and there are some ones that we still talk about, like the Mexican wrestler ones, El Santo y Blue Demon versus Los Vampiros is a great one.
We were lucky enough over back when the Draft House was still there. We hosted which one did we
versus Los Monstruos?
Yes, it was a blast.
Yeah, it was.
That was my very first one. So it was just it was a whole new world that was opened up for me. It was so much fun, but there was fun. But you could also tell there was some distinct cultural differences, which I loved, because I was like, yes, that's what I'm looking for with these movies, and that's what I've been looking for throughout. The experience of seeing these movies is seeing horror through that other culture, because scary is still scary.
Yeah.
But then you put it through that filter and you get to just see how cool and unique it makes it. And from that, you get El Vampiro in 1957, The Brainiac in 1961. There is, just like you said, there's a long legacy of films.
Yeah. And then recently we're getting a lot of Latin American directors that are breaking all sorts of conventions and doing their own fucking thing. You know, I mean, like Guillermo del Toro is one of them, and he's internationally known now. And we all can say, oh, that's very del Toroistic, you know, and we know exactly what we're talking about. So I like that now that he's breaking through, and other people like Alfonso Cuarón, he's making all these different movies, and Pedro Almodovar is making all that stuff. So like
Gigi Salguero.
Yeah, so they're all bringing their own Latin movies, Hispanic movies are coming, because a long time you don't think, when you think of like Hispanic movies, especially me growing up, when you'd watch on Univision or you know, you go to the Mexican markets and they're playing on the background, it's always these like machismo action movies where a guy in a cowboy hat is fucking up the cartels, or vice versa. So like, and that's all you would see. And even if you go to like, there's the buy place, Viva Fashion Mart. Around there in the flea market, they have a bootleg DVD guy, and so it gets all the Mexican movies, and it's like all frontier movies, and so like there's not a lot of Mexican cinema. But when you have cats like Guillermo del Toro and Gigi Salguero coming out and making some stuff, that's even all the better, because not only are they paying homage to some of the older movies that they have, but they're bringing new ideas and whole new avenues, and it's super dope to see.
It's the legacy lives on.
Yeah. And then you have weird shit.
Well, speaking of weird, before we even talk about that which shall not be named quite yet, there are a number of things in this podcast, if you've been listening to us for a while. Again, we've got 250 plus episodes at this point. you will hear certain phrases come up again and again, almost call and response, where I can say another time,
another place.
That comes from Streets of Fire, which you should definitely seek out.
Oh, absolutely. Speaking of William Dafoe, I'm just glad he wasn't Bobby Peru and Lederhosen.
I don't know if the teeth would have matched with that.
Bobby Peru's going to hit you with a hammer. You know, just like...
Here in a few weeks, you're going to hear the origin of a little bit of when genius really lets his id go free. What would we normally say? If you really let yourself...
Oh, don't dream it. Oh, the debaucherous.
The debaucherous.
The debaucherous.
Technically, I know most people will say Rocky Horror Picture Show,
no,
but yet
it's a different story.
But then there's another one, a little 2-word phrase that is our opening tier here, because
you know when you go beyond.
That's right.
Squiddley Diddley.
Squiddley Diddley. So that is another phrase, and it's not even so much of a phrase as it is a frame of mind, as it is something.
There's motions involved in it. To truly say something Squiddley Diddley, you have to add the Squiddley Diddley.
But it came from a weird incident, and we talked to the Black Coat's daughter, which is going to be showing. We saw it at Film Club at the Draft House, and Film Club initially was created to create
cultivate conversations in current cult cinema.
There we go. We love the alliteration, and it was a lot of fun. I saw some great movies. Saw The Lure through Film Club.
I love that movie. We showed Low Life,
yes.
Perfume, Freeway, Shadow of the Vampire,
Tommy.
We showed new ones. We also showed Starfish when it was in the theater. Ingrid Goes West.
Yeah.
Vox Lux, Her Smell. So all the gambit.
You would get some challenging films. Not a lot of them were real feel good, because the idea was you would talk afterwards.
Right.
And
like a book club, but for movies, so Film Club.
It was great, and which technically, give it a plug.
Yeah, we're still doing it now. What we're doing is, since we can't do it in theater anymore for various reasons, we went virtual. And so now what we do is we watch a movie on our own time, and we pick which movie we want to watch this time, and we discuss it for about a good 2 hours and just talk about all the different things of it. And there's no wrong answers. We just ask you to show your work, defend your answers. And it's totally free. It's a lot of fun. And usually we try to find movies that are free streaming, so everybody can get a chance to watch. So
well, and it started at a good place. It still is in a great place.
Like we just did Blind Spotting, but now this is dropping Friday 2 days ago. So yeah.
No, so the conversation continues. But it's funny that there would always be you would have trailers that ideally we would show beforehand, which would be for upcoming Film Club things, because it would be exclusive. They would be able to program it.
Because these movies they would only show one time, one day in particular, and then that was it.
Yep. But there was a trailer that hit. And when I say hit, I'm talking hit with a capital H, and it was a wet hit.
Yes, it was.
That kind of overtook Film Club and became a term. It became to the point where it's the vernacular in our podcast.
Yeah.
Genius McGee, take us back. Let's go back here and do a little...
So we're getting ready to do the Film Club, and the trailers come on. And let's say this is about a month before this movie is supposed to show. And all of a sudden it's gone. It's got that music, that song, right? And it's just these panning shots of beautiful countrysides, and then it shows a duck fucking a duck, and then it goes back a little bit more, and then it talks, and then two people are walking in the forest, right? And then it shows a girl lying on the bed. Right? And you're like, okay. And then it goes back to the two ducks fucking, all right? And then I'm like, what is this? And then it goes, and then it had like premiered at this festival and this festival, and you will not forget this movie. Right? And it's like, okay. And so then you see the girl on the bed, and all of a sudden she starts spreading eagle, and then this fucking tentacle thing starts sliding up her leg and wrapping it around, and it looks just like this dick, and it's a tentacle dick. And then another one comes out, and I think I said it a lot. is she gonna get diddled by a squid? And then I'm like, Squiddley Diddley, and then like, boop, da 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 da, and then it just says The Untamed, and then. All right, in 4 weeks we're showing The Untamed, guys, and it was just, and then
now, and it should be noted though, it had a name, The Untamed,
but it became Squiddley Diddley because I was like, this is, and I'm like, okay, remember we're going to see that Squiddley Diddley film in a couple of weeks, right? And so then but here's the kicker, fucking they showed that trailer before almost every single movie that was PG-13 and above, right? I mean, because you wouldn't want to see Frozen 2 with right? And so, like, for every fucking movie they showed that, there you go. All right, here's Black Klansman. You're like, holy shit, right? And then it was like, is that Squiddly Diddly movie? And it kept going on. And then for every film club before, I'm like, remember, get your tickets for the Squiddly Diddly movie, right? I was just fucking around. Then finally,
on the day of
the week before, on the last film, the film club before, because you could go, because that's when tickets go on sale for the next one, right? I'm with Amber, and like you can hear, hey, box office is calling, and they want to know what they're talking about. The Squiddly Diddly movie. We looked on our computer. We can't find any Squiddly Diddly movie, and we had like 4 or 5 people ask for it. And I was like, holy shit, it's The Untamed, guys. And so meanwhile, oh, okay, la, da, 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 right? And so like, they go. So from then on, Squiddly Diddly. That is just became a thing. Whenever somebody is going to get diddled by an octopus, it's Squiddly, or whenever a cephalopod of some sort shows up,
exactly,
Squiddly Diddly. And there's a whole fucking subgenre of it. There's tons of Squiddly Diddly out there.
As it turns out, we opened up a portal. I don't think that we knew we needed to get into.
All of a sudden, what?
No. Yeah.
No.
No, it was, the reason we're giggling like this, number one, is much like in Possession. I think how you see the film can shade how you view it, obviously. I've seen Possession multiple times and multiple reactions. So I need to know now, having watched The Untamed, Squiddly Diddly, how did that play in a theater?
You could hear a pin fucking drop the entire movie until like, what the fuck, right? You could hear just everything, and then you're like, what? Just like all at once, so many people, so many sounds. It's like 1,000 voices at the same time, all crying in anguish and confusion. What? I mean, there was so many like, okay, and then silence, dead fucking silence, and every now and then you'd hear la da da la da da da, right? And so
because I'm watching it not dumbfounded, because I'm a mature adult, but let me just say, ladies and gentlemen, there is a lot of sexual content.
There's a lot of graphic sexual content in this movie, and this is not an easy movie.
No, and this is a movie that I think could possibly make a lot of people uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Which brings me back to the theatrical experience of viewing this in a theater, a crowded theater. But thankfully, Film Club did cultivate conversation, but it also cultivated a very curious kind of audience. Film Club Chris, Film Club Kelly, love all you all.
And you guys, Sarah and Daniel, and
exactly.
Parker, and Jesse, and Supercat, and Stacy, and everybody's been keeping Diana and doing the virtual thing. But we still try and see some weird ass movies. But that movie,
and there's such a build up to it too.
Yeah, because it's so long. Every fucking movie you went to, la, da, 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 right? And you're like, what the fuck is this?
So I need to know, when introducing it, what was it like? Was the energy palpable?
Yeah, it was.
You could just feel the tentacle?
Yeah, it was. People were ready. People were fucking ready, because if they're already wanting to buy their ticket for the Squiddly Diddly movie, they know exactly what they're fucking getting into. So people were like, okay, here we go. And some people knew what they were getting into, and some people go sight unseen. But even then, I mean, everybody went sight unseen in Film Club because nobody fucking saw these movies first. But just walk-ins, you can hear a lot of because people I've never seen before would come in, and then the regulars.
And that's just it. You have to all keep in mind there are normies that will come to this. I remember there were walkouts in The Lure.
Yeah.
So you will have some people that may not necessarily know what they're getting.
Well, because if you say on paper a musical about mermaids,
why not? It sounds good.
Under the sea, they aren't expecting la da da, right? So like, it's nuts.
Oh my goodness. So I watched it, and it ended. And I had a visceral WTF reaction, which I don't do very often, because the journey it took me, and I will say this, I genuinely enjoyed this flick.
Yes, it's a good movie.
It's a crazy good flick. A very serious relationship drama. It goes into some very heady places.
Very dark places.
But much like Possession, it features...
a girl fucks an octopus. Right.
And as you get a lot of buildup in Possession, and I think the reveal is quite great. It's still wonderful, but oh my goodness, it's as if Amat Escalante watched Zulawski and he was like,
Hold my beer.
Exactly.
Hold my beer. Well, he dedicated this movie to Zulawski.
Yes.
And it says to dedicate it for Possession. He wanted to make a spiritual sequel-ish to this, and I think he fucking did it.
Oh, there is no doubt that he did it.
And he went the show not tell route.
Well,
because
within the first 5 minutes of the movie,
the first scene, the first fucking scene, we get this chick masturbating with the tentacle. I mean, just going to town graphically, I might add. And you're like, oh, it's gonna be one of them kind of movies, and then it keeps going from there.
It doesn't necessarily, it just continues to escalate, but not in ways that you would anticipate, because it opens with a bang, quite literally, and then, we then get into the relationship side of the drama.
Well, because like I said, the first thing you see, she's masturbating, and then she gets beat the fuck up, and then she looks up, more please, and you're like, oh okay.
And I went in with certain expectations, kind of knowing, and I was still... I should say the expectations were met and then some, but it was built based around the relationship and the drama, where you have takes on toxic masculinity.
It takes on repression.
Yes.
It takes on loveless marriages. It takes on what you would give to be sexually free.
Yes.
It takes on the church. It takes on so many different things in this woman fucks an octopus movie.
Which leads me to believe you could probably write a dissertation on this, and so there are going to be some people that will definitely have some intellectual takes that you can walk away from. We're going to offer our opinions and the reactions of everything, but no, that really stood out to me. But also just the overt sexual material. But the question almost is, how important is sex?
Yeah.
As not even just a procreation tool, but something that is legitimately just a calming thing, because everyone that has an experience walks away like cleansed, purged, that catharsis.
Or they don't walk away at all.
No, they don't. See,
it's a weird thing about this monster's almost love itself. It can bring such great pleasure and such great pain, so what you do for it or what you want to leave for it,
right?
It's a lot of different subjects with this thing, and again, that's not even touching on the murder aspect of it. The murder, did he or did he not, or the whole repression and the whole betrayal and the whole aspect of it. I mean, the fuck monster is just the fuck monster.
Well, and technically it is a relationship film with this alien, and it starts from the get-go, the opening shot with the meteor or whatever that is. And so,
but all the shots are slow and deliberate.
And as bombastic as the characters are in Possession, they are just so subdued and subtle in the Untamed. And it was a very nice contrast, because as hectic as Possession is, this one is quite the opposite. But when the stings come, they really work.
Yeah.
Going to some of the characters here, Vero was kind of a standout for me, and I think she is basically the one that's kind of the guide to everything, because she's the one that introduces the creature to all these various people. the brother
Felipe.
Yes. Then
No, Fabian.
Well, and it was initially I had to realize that it was the husband was cheating with the brother.
Uh-huh.
And it was Veronica is the one that basically introduces the brother to it.
Well, because Veronica at first wanted to fuck the doctor.
Right.
Wanted to, because she's
She's still
the first thing, like she's getting better from the wound inflicted by the monster. And
no, that was the dog.
No, there was no dog that bite her.
Yeah.
No, she said it was a dog, but it was because she got stabbed by the monster.
Oh, okay. I just assumed it was the dog.
Because the monster was getting tired of her.
That's right.
So yeah, so he kind of
right.
like, okay, you can't. I'm kind of getting through with you.
You've seen it multiple times at this point. So again,
so she went to like she was like, yeah, it's a dog. Because what's she gonna say? I got attacked by a fuck monster, you know? So like,
very true, very true.
And so then she goes, you know what, doctor, you got pretty eyes. You like sex? I mean, because that was like the first fucking thing she said to him. And he goes, well, like, don't we all, you know? And he goes, with men or women or both? And she just looks and like, I might have overstepped. You overstep your line when the first thing you think is, thanks to you, doctor, do you like sex? You know?
Well, and I think I do remember her saying
I like universal health care and all, but
I think she said something about being socially awkward, and
Yeah.
I was like, I'm socially awkward too, but I don't open with things
but
like
I don't
that.
open
Like,
with that. I don't open with you. You want to see my fuck monster? You know? So like, and then it just gets wilder from there, because then we just finished that graphic scene of what's going on, and then the next thing we see is another good morning sex scene, and it's just like loveless and just by the numbers and just and
it
then
was very clinical.
yeah, and you're like, okay, so what's going? There's a lot of fucking sex in this movie.
It is an overtly sexual film that is definitely not going to be for everyone.
Right.
And as chaste kind of as Possession was, again, he totally flipped it on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
But does the overt graphic nature of it take away from the film?
No, I think it enhances it actually.
Because
and
technically
it's about sex.
It is.
I mean, and not saying that it enhances like, you know, but I'm saying it enhances because if you're going to talk about a movie about sex and what it means to be repressed and finding out that this super macho husband is having an affair with the gay brother, but yet not even under his breath calls him all sorts of homophobic slurs, then like it should show. If you're going to be graphic, but not for this. As graphic as everything got, it never really teetered that line of this is exploitive. You know what I'm saying? But I even wrote like this is borderline pornographic, but not that that's a bad thing.
No, not at all. Well, I mean, going
That
back
sounds terrible.
Well, no. I would even argue going back to Film Club, you all had viewed We Are the Flesh.
Yeah.
Which
that's a rough one. And the Golden Glove.
And so you have seen some overtly aggressive sexual films there.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think those movies are not meant to titillate.
No.
You know, I think quite the opposite. And I don't think this movie is meant to do that either. It's meant to unnerve you.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to stir your loins and your brains.
Well, because they talk about that the closer you get to this crater, that it brings out this baser thing of you, this thing that's almost pure, they say. I'm trying not to get too spoilerish.
I think we're gonna have to, man, because it's hard to talk. It's hard to talk about.
Okay, good. No, we're 30 minutes in. So at this point, if you have not seen The Untamed, you can rent it on Vudu, a number of platforms, Amazon. Go and check it out. It is definitely worth your time, especially if you did dig Possession. Seek this out. But 2 words, genius. Animal orgy.
Mm-hmm.
Holy moly.
Orgy. Animal orgy.
I knew I was going to see some things that I'm never going to unsee. And I did. The animal orgy was one I did not know I was gonna unsee.
It looks like behind the beaded curtain of Noah's Ark. It's like if there was if Noah's Ark was a swingers cruise. There was fucking pineapples all over.
Jesus Christ!
Look at a duck comes out. He's got like a. So hey, I'm talking about L'Amour, right? And just like. And they showed it in the trailer. I mean, but a little bit of it, not to the full extent of it.
A snippet. No, here you get this full on. You have
a scene of all these animals fucking each other.
Reptiles. I mean, but they're all with this. There's no interspecies mingling.
No, there's no interspecies mingling, but there's just animals going to town on each other.
It was.
And like
equal parts funny, awkward, shocking.
From lions to lambs, they're all together in this like things that should be eating each other. They're eating other things. They're they're just going to town. And then meanwhile, like, she's getting
over in the cabin in the woods.
The cabin in the woods, right? The husband's bulge. I mean, it's going nuts. La, da, da, right? And so
let's talk about the creature. The one in possession was practically made by Carlos Rambaldi.
Mm-hmm.
This is a CGI creation, but I thought it looked good.
It looked great. For being a fuck monster, it looked like a fuck monster.
It's just pure id. It just is a thing that gives pleasure. And there's an old couple there that are these old hippie scientists,
and they're down for the get down too, because even when they're like, I need to study it, but let me put my hand in your pants, and it's just like, god damn, you randy old people, but I guess if you're gonna be the caretakers of a fuck monster, you have to be down for the get down.
And not only are they the presidents, but they're also clients,
right?
They're
literally just studying the fuck monster and seeing what it does.
And interestingly enough, they actually ply her with some tea beforehand, almost like trying to, and I don't want to say set the mood, but it was her first interaction with it. Just like
muscle relaxers, probably.
Possibly. So is that good, bad?
I mean, honestly, if I'm going to get fucked by an octopus, I kind of want to be in an altered state, if I have, but at the same time, she was willing. Everybody who goes to this, well, not everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody who goes, for the most part, everybody who goes to this cabin are willing and know of the risk.
But
and want to go back.
Well, and that's just it. That's when the go back is when the first time with our main, Ale, she just looks calm, at peace. And she gives her the hug and she's like, do you want to go back? Or are you going to go back? And she's
like, yes, I do, actually.
Yeah. And like I said, with possession, you get a build up. You get the creature reveal when he's all out on the mattress and everything, and it leads to the end scene with the sex scene, basically.
Yeah.
Here, oh my goodness! Again, it's as if he said, "Okay, I'm going to turn this to 11," and the scene we get is unbelievably graphic.
Yeah.
We are talking
tentacles everywhere. He's got her up in the air like one of those sex swings, but he's the sex swing because he's got tentacles in the air and around her, in her mouth. I mean, like every single orifice you can think of is being just pleasurably violated because it doesn't look pleasant, but it also does. I mean, it does, as in, like, it doesn't look violent and mean. You know what I'm saying? It looks like he's genuinely having consensual sex with this person. So, like, but graphically, all over the place.
And I just wasn't expecting that. I was expecting it.
Well, because like when possession, it's still in the dark. It's still, you're trying to wrap your mind about what you're seeing. Almost. And here it's like, sin casi, no almost, right? Here it is. And it's weird because, like, it was almost like in possession, the monster was the build up to it. Mm-hmm. In this one, the monster is just a mean to the end. He's just another side character. He's the bumbling detective. So, like, the fumbling detective. But
we had those in possession as well.
So when they show it, you're like, oh. And especially, what it can possibly do. Because like they say, it can give great pleasure. Like, they're almost like Cenobites. It's almost like a Cenobite. Yeah. It can give great pleasure or great pain. Angels of Summer neither. Because like the brother, when everything was said and done, they thought he was violently raped and strangled, And so, but it wasn't. It was just a fuck gone wrong. To the monster's credit, I guess.
Yeah, it's disturbing.
It's disturbing, and the way they found it, and the way everything's so callous about it, and the fact that they're like, oh, this is the second body this week. So the fact that there's more people going to find this fuck monster and getting killed by it.
The fact that at the very end, when she casually says the bodies are starting to pile up, as if there is a body count to this thing.
But they almost treat it like this thing is this. It is a sexual awakening for a lot of people because it helped Vero. It helped before he got killed. It helped the brother, and it definitely helped Alejandra. So I don't know. It's just this weird thing because it's this monster.
So the question is, again, too much of one thing obviously is not a good thing. So is it all about, again, finding the balance and all that? So moderation.
I would think so. But then again, it's also heartbreaking too, because it eventually is going to get tired of you and try to kill you, or you're not going to be able to take it anymore.
And then you're also almost addicted, because I think that kind of plays on an addiction angle, especially with Vera, as she's seeking out, again, a connection.
Yeah.
Or to be fulfilled ultimately.
Well, because even before the monster came into play, Alejandra was miserable.
Yeah.
Her husband was a fucking brute who played this weird macho grab ass. What the fuck was that? I mean, that's some fucking red flags right there too. You know what I'm saying? But then
I thought it was a cultural thing.
No. I mean, grab ass is grab ass, but he was playing like Find the Worm, and so
yeah.
and it was like, what the fuck, dude? Come on, stop it. The boss is looking, you know, and so, but then. So she's in this loveless marriage, and he can't open to himself that he is at least bisexual.
Right.
But yet he calls the brother F words and so many racial slurs, so many homophobic slurs. Meanwhile, hey, I'm horny, you little effer. Like, I want to fuck you, you little queer, and blah, 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 blah. You know, and so it's like, and the brother was even talking to Veta before everything. Like, I don't know how to quit him. You know, I know he's bad news.
Yeah.
I know I'm going to wind up hurting a lot of people, but I just can't stop. And then Veto's like, well, we all have to do what we want and have to do. You want to see my fuck monster? And like, he's like, oh, okay. And then that's what kind of gave him the will to like, look, you're no good for me. I've got something a lot better. So with this fuck monster.
And you got to find the balance, I think, of the physicality, the spiritual, you know, the chemistry needs to be right, because like you said, all one thing, it's definitely bad for you. I don't know. Relationships are complicated.
Yeah.
You know, there are always going to be shades of gray, and I didn't think necessarily that would be explored in this movie. That's what I was not expecting. I was expecting the Squiddley Diddley. I didn't expect this interesting character piece of these relationships that are falling apart, and the fallout of that as well is with the kids, with the family, just how with the turning their back on their son. You know, the fact that they own the family is with the candy
factory.
store. Yeah,
you brought shame and so okay, so you brought shame part. So I was listening to the interview by the director. And he goes, well, this movie is based on a true story. And they're like, well, I'm like, wait a minute, let me rewind that a bit. So there's this fuck monster in Mexico. Like, well, whenever they let us go back to the country, I'm not on the no-fly list, so I'm okay to go. So I want to, right? So, no, but they said it was based on a true story. Because what happened was they found this guy was brutally raped and left dead in a puddle, like in just in the forest. And the newspapers wrote something along the lines of "silly little gay man found dead in the blah 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 blah." Very like salacious, disrespectful headline, and like everybody was cool with it, and it just kind of ran with. And then he was like, that's fucked up, because there was a scene where he goes, you brought disgrace to the family, and he threw the paper, and it goes,
oh yeah, the headline.
Yeah, that was basically what happened, and then he wrote the whole story around it. But then with that whole family, like, you brought so much. And in fairness, the guy is convicted for rape and murder. I would probably be like, dude, I don't want you around everybody now. You know, you don't go to the right Twix factory. You're not barred. You're barred from the left Twix factory. You know, so.
It all comes down to money, as it is. It always comes down to that. But again, I wasn't expecting that with this Squiddley Diddley flick. I wasn't. That's what I kind of like with Possession as well, is the fact that you get this really crazy, complicated story of a couple's dissolution. Here, there's again continued follow, even with the kids. The relationship she has with Jacoby
and Ivan.
Yeah,
those little kids. Sometimes they were adorable, but sometimes I'm like, you kids are fucking annoying as fuck. But at least, like, as opposed to in Possession, where they didn't give a fuck about him. At least when she was going off getting diddled with a squid, she let Vito watch him.
Hey, she broke a window to go get him.
Oh, yeah, she did. Yeah, she did.
I will say, I thought the him being allergic to chocolate was going to come back in some sort of way. And maybe that's just the Ari Aster in me. I don't know, but that didn't. But I actually kind of enjoyed the time with them, just because they're kind of rascallion. And also the fact that he's watching the zombie movie and he's like, "Mommy, it's okay. Zombies aren't real." It was a nice little moment, and like the little moments like that.
Yeah, they were cute.
I enjoyed.
But sometimes like.
Well, it's just, again,
kids.
There's consequences to these relationships.
Yeah.
There's consequences with the fuck monster or what have you. Is it a horror movie?
A monster kills people.
That is very true. Very true.
I think that
for me, this is totally horror adjacent.
Yeah.
But I also get, if you're a hardcore horror fan,
you might not get this, or not get this. You might not dig this movie.
Yeah, it might not necessarily be the cup of tea they're going to serve you before you rendezvous with said monster. It's definitely a little unsettling. Like you said, I think it's designed to be provocative.
Yeah.
It's designed. It's not
provocative. It gets the people going.
Well, it does. It does. This is not a subtle movie. The performances are, but just the content itself. When the genre bits hit, be they the sex core or the hardcore,
or like blue piss, or
the splooshing moment.
Yeah,
which I had a brain damage. Kind of callback to that, just the.
What makes the hurdy, the gurdy, do. It's Squiddley's tune.
Very weird and unsettling, and it's just for a moment, and it's not even doesn't really mean anything except for the fact that she's still
she wants to go say what's up to the fuck monster.
Yeah, it's just being in a relationship where the other side doesn't want you anymore. I mean, listen, I think that's very real for a lot of people. And the hurt is real. And so, again, I wasn't expecting this. This was a nice surprise.
But that guy was a piece of shit, and I'm glad he got everything that was coming to him, especially when he shot himself in the leg.
Oh, my God.
You fucking moron. I laugh. But at the same time, you can't feel sorry for this guy. No. He's legit a piece of shit all the way around.
And in the ending of the movie, which, I mean, it ends.
It just ends. It literally mid-scene.
Yeah, there's a stain on your blouse, and then click.
Boop. Yeah.
And I did one of those, why wait? Because I don't know what kind of resolution I needed, but I think maybe I needed to know what happened. Like, are the kids safe?
Yeah, I don't know.
Are they part of her carefree lifestyle now?
Well, they all live in a hippie commune now,
mm-hmm.
So maybe. I mean, like, hey, Moonbeam, can you watch the kids? I gotta go and drop the goods off at the pool. Meanwhile, la, da, 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 so like, I don't know.
But we don't know, and it's very ambiguous.
And then eventually she'll either get tossed aside and have to find somebody else for the monster, or she'll get killed.
So is this whole thing like a take on monogamy and how it's not necessarily something that's supposed to work? Like in our basic instinct, our basest, purest thing, monogamy is initially rejected because that's what that place represents. This like base thing of us.
Of just sex.
This pure physical thing. And that's like its rejection because it doesn't have just one partner or it doesn't stay with someone forever.
No.
It eventually rejects them. So I don't know. Again, I think there's a lot of stuff that could be read into this movie.
Mm-hmm. I think letting be who you are and letting yourself go, like give yourself over to absolute pleasure. Because if Angel was just honest with himself and everybody else, like, it might be a different story.
Certainly.
At least one of them wouldn't be dead.
But then it also goes to show, again, just in terms of cultural things, being able to be, be gay in a society and not have the dangers of it. I mean,
very machismo, very patriarchal society. I mean, very well.
Shit, here in the U.S.,
it seems like it's more prevalent in, especially in smaller towns in Mexico and Latin America, and like ones that are not as progressive.
Sure, same thing here.
Sadly, yeah. Because I'm sure cultural differences aside, if you set the whole thing from like Guanajuato, Mexico to like West Virginia, I think it would play exactly the same.
Yeah,
we'd have different animals in the fuck crater or in the crater of love, but you'd still have like possums and like raccoons instead of like cranes and snakes. You
can call the big one Bitey.
Yeah.
No, listen. I think you can take away a lot from this movie. The biggest takeaway is that yes, Squiddley Diddley is involved. Now,
Squiddley Diddley?
What was the conversation like afterwards, with all the buildup and just given what we did experience?
Just like this one, not as wild as you'd think. You know, like when dealing with fuck monsters and squiddly diddlies and all this kind of shit. But we talked about like, okay, what does it mean to not be yourself, and who does it hurt, and like, my question is, would you go to the cabin? And I'm gonna ask you that question too. Would you go see the fuck monster?
If I was in my 20s, yes. In my 40s now, no. That sounds like way too much work. It's seriously no. I
would fucking I'd buy a season pass. On the 10th visit, it practically pays for itself. Like.
On the card, it's got little things
Stamps,
for the steps.
Yep. Like fucking tentacles.
Yep. How many people answered yes? Quite a few?
There was some yes and no's. I mean, there was about split. Because, I mean, like, you know, again, giving over yourself to your base needs. And I don't know. It all depends on your situation and how the fuck monster would treat you differently, you know?
I get it now. Okay, Lola, I know she is diva-ing right now. I am telling you, she's either really got to pee or poo, and it's gonna take it out on me here. So, final thoughts on the Untamed.
Well, you now know where the Squiddley Diddley has come from, and you know what? That is the bar that all other Squiddley Diddley things need to achieve.
Well, in having not watched that film before and just being ensconced in the Squiddley Diddley, it was a nice surprise. Mm-hmm. Again, it met my expectations with the Squiddley Diddley, but the relationship stuff, the heady stuff involved, elevated it as well.
Come for the Squiddley Diddley, stay for the drama.
Well, we are going to be going here next week we're going from Mexico now all the way to Japan.
From the south to the east.
Oh boy. And I love my Japanese brethren and sisters over there, but man, we're going to get weird again.
We're going to get weird and metallic.
Yes, we are. So until that time, this is Greg D.
I'm Genius McGee.
And we'll see you in your dreams.